I want to begin with the thing you have never said out loud. Somewhere out there is a person with half your discipline and none of your understanding. A person who never read a book in his life, who never sat in the dark and tried, who never even asked, and he has the very thing you have been reaching for. And when you heard about it, you smiled, and you told him you were happy for him. And then you walked into another room, and something in your chest turned over, and a small voice asked the question you are ashamed of. Why not me? I am going to answer that question, and the answer is not what you fear. You are not unlucky. You are not cursed. You are not behind, and there is nothing broken in you. You are magnetic. You have always been magnetic. Your magnet has been working perfectly this entire time with terrible, flawless precision. It has simply been pointed at the wrong thing. Because you are not magnetic to what you want. You are magnetic to what you are certain of. And the one thing you have been most certain of, every morning when you checked and nothing had changed, every night when you lay down and it still had not come, is that it is not here. You have been broadcasting your evidence and calling it realism, and life, which never argues with anyone, has answered you the only way it knows how. More of that. So stay with me. I am going to give you the one verse that explains exactly why this happens, and the one inner act that reverses it. An act you can perform the next time you lie down to sleep, without changing a single circumstance, without spending $1, and without telling one living soul. Here is the verse, and I warn you, the first time a man hears it plainly, he thinks heaven is cruel. In the 13th chapter of Matthew, and again in Mark, he says, "For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he hath." The preachers stumble over that one. It sounds like the rich getting richer while the poor are robbed. And so they soften it, or they skip it, or they promise it means something in the sweet by and by. It means nothing of the kind. That is not a moral statement. That is a statement of law. As impersonal as gravity, as exact as arithmetic. To him that hath, that is, to him who occupies the state of having, more is given. To him that hath not, to him who occupies the state of lacking, even the little he holds is taken away. Life does not reward the deserving. I wish it did. You have earned it 100 times over. Life multiplies the occupied state. It looks at what a man is being, and it says, more of that. That is the verse. And that is what magnetism actually is. It is not a force you push out into the world. It is a state you stand in. And the world, which has no opinion of its own, rearranges itself around the man standing there. So now you can see the trap, and I want to name it exactly, because naming it is half of leaving it. You have been trying to get the thing, and the very act of trying to get it is your confession that you do not have it. Every time you sat down to visualize, you were rehearsing your lack with better pictures. Every affirmation you spoke was testimony that the opposite was true, for no man affirms that he has hands. No man stands before a mirror insisting that he is breathing. We only insist upon what we secretly doubt. The wanting itself is the state of not having, and law is not moved by your sincerity. Law is moved by your state. Read the psalm again, the 23rd, the one they recite over graves without ever once hearing it. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He does not say, I shall get everything I want. He says, I shall not want. I shall not stand in the state of wanting. That is the promise, not the satisfaction of the beggar, the end of the beggar. You do not become magnetic by wanting harder. You become magnetic when the wanting stops, because the thing is already yours in the only place anything is ever truly born. Now, what does it actually mean to act as if? Let me clear away the nonsense first, because that phrase has been abused until it means almost nothing. It has nothing to do with your outer behavior. It does not mean spending money you do not have, or announcing to your family that everything is marvelous while your stomach turns over. Anything performed for an audience must be maintained by effort, and anything maintained by effort collapses the moment you are tired. To act as if is an inner act, entirely inner, invisible to every living soul on earth. And here is the whole of it, in one distinction that took me years to learn, and will take you about a minute. Most men think of the thing they desire. I am asking you to think from it. To think of it is to stand where you are, look across the distance, and picture it over there. And every time you do, you confirm the distance. You are a man at a window watching a life he is not living. To think from it is to move in, to take up residence, to look out at your world through the eyes of the man who already has it, and to notice how ordinary it all looks from in there, how settled, how unremarkable. That is the act. That is the entire art. You do not draw the thing toward you. You go to it in imagination and you stay. And the outer world, which has no choice in the matter, is compelled to come around and meet you. And when you truly stand in that place, you will notice you do not feel excited. You feel quiet. That quiet is the sign. Excitement is the emotion of a man who does not have it yet. Scripture gives you the perfect picture of this in the 8th chapter of Matthew, and I want you to feel the sheer nerve of the man in it. A centurion comes about a servant who is dying, and Jesus says, "I will come and heal him." And the centurion says, "No, speak the word only, and my servant shall be healed." He would not have the evidence. He would not have the visit, the touch, the proof. He said, "Give me the word, and I will walk home in the certainty of it." And the answer he receives is the whole law in 9 words. "As thou hast believed, so be it done unto thee." Not as thou hast deserved, not as thou hast worked, not as thou hast wanted. God knows the man wanted it. His servant was dying. As thou hast believed. The healing was not measured by the size of the need. It was measured by the state the man walked home in. And that is the question I am putting to you now. Never mind what you want. I know what you want. You have told the ceiling 1,000 times. What state will you walk home in? Let me tell you what this cost me to learn, because I did not get it out of a book. In November of 1942, I was drafted into the army. I was a man in my late 30s with a wife and a child and work that I loved, and I was sent to Camp Polk in Louisiana. I applied for a discharge. The colonel read my application, looked up at me, and said one word: disapproved. There is the fact. There is the evidence in a uniform, behind a desk, with the authority of the United States Army standing behind it. And I want you to notice that this is the exact place where you have always surrendered, the moment the outer world said no. I went back to my barracks, and that night I lay on that cot in Louisiana, and I refused it. I did not fight the colonel. I did not petition or argue or scheme. I simply slept in my own apartment in New York. I lay there, and I felt the bed I knew. I looked out of my own window at Washington Place. I saw the familiar things of that room. I felt the honorable discharge already in my hand. And as I drifted off, I said to myself over and over, "Isn't it wonderful?" Not, "I want to go home." I was home. The army was 1,000 miles away, and long ago. 9 days later, that same colonel called me in. He asked me whether I still wanted to be discharged. I told him that I did, and he signed the very paper he had already refused, signed it himself. And I went home, honorably discharged, exactly as I had slept. I never learned how he changed his mind. I have never needed to. That was never my business, and the how is never yours. I did not become magnetic on that cot. I simply stopped pointing the magnet at Louisiana. Now here is the objection, and I will meet it head on, because if I leave it standing, you will not do a single thing I tell you. But Neville, isn't this lying to myself? I am at Camp Polk. I am behind on the rent. Am I to deceive myself? My friend, you are already deceiving yourself. You have simply been deceived by the thing you can see. Because what is that bank balance? It is the fossil of an assumption you held last year. What is that silent telephone? It is the residue of a state you occupied last month. You are looking at the hardened past, calling it the truth, and then obediently feeling the way it tells you to feel. And in doing so, you are casting it forward into next year. That is the whole machinery of a stuck life. Not sin, not bad luck, loyalty to the evidence of a state you no longer wish to occupy. I have said it 1,000 times, and I will say it again. An assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. Read it slowly. He does not say a true assumption. He says, though false. It is admitted openly that when you begin it will not be true. It cannot be true. For if it were already true, you would have no need to assume it. The falseness is not the obstacle. The falseness is the doorway. So you are not choosing between honesty and self-deception. You are choosing which of two unproven futures you will be loyal to from here on. The one your eyes are arguing for, or the one you desire. Both of them, at this moment, are equally unproven. One of them is going to harden. Choose the one you actually want to live in. So here is your work, and it is small, which will offend you, because you have been taught that large results demand large effort. When you are in bed and the drowsiness comes, that quiet border between waking and sleeping, the state akin to sleep, do not pray, do not repeat, do not ask for anything. Construct one small scene that could only be true if the thing were already done. Small, ordinary, and after. Not the winning, the aftermath of the winning. The friend gripping your shoulder, the word congratulations. The key already turning in your own door. The quiet inner house where the trouble is over. Then step inside it, not watching yourself from across the room. That is thinking of it. Be in it. See through your own eyes. Feel the weight in your own hands. Hear it spoken to you at the distance a real voice would be. And run that little scene softly again and again until it stops feeling like a wish and begins to feel like a memory. The moment it feels remembered rather than wanted, it is finished. Turn over and sleep. You have been given, because in that moment you had. And now the part where almost everyone fails. Not the assumption, the morning after it. You will wake into an unchanged room with the unchanged balance and the unchanged silence on your telephone. And your mind will begin its old conversation immediately. Nothing happened. It didn't take, what am I going to do? That is the quiet reaction that cancels the whole thing. And it has a name. It is checking. Checking looks harmless. It feels almost responsible. But every time you glance at the outer world to see whether your assumption has worked yet, you have stepped out of the state of having and back into the state of waiting. And the law, which never sleeps, simply records the state you are actually standing in. You planted at midnight and dug it up at 8 in the morning to look at the roots. So watch the inner conversation, because that conversation is your magnet running all day, and it is far louder than anything you did the night before. All day put one question to yourself. Would the man who already has it be saying this to himself? He would not be pleading. He would not be checking. He would not be rehearsing the disaster. He would be busy and easy and rather quiet about the whole affair, because no man discusses the arrival of what is already sitting in his house. And do not announce it. Do not lay your assumption in front of people who will helpfully explain to you why it is impossible. A new state is a young thing. Keep it out of the wind. One more thing, and hear me. The miracle almost never arrives through the door you are watching. You will be staring at the one person, the one job, the one route, and it will come through a door you did not know was in the building. That is why you must never insist upon the how. Insisting upon the how is how a man bolts every other door in the house. I have never seen this law fail, not once. In every case where it appeared to fail, a man had assumed for an hour and disbelieved for a week. You do not have to make yourself worthy of miracles. There is no ledger. No one is weighing your discipline, your childhood, your mistakes, or the years you feel you have wasted. To him that hath, it shall be given. And hath is not a bank balance. It is a state. And a state can be entered right now for free in the dark by a man with nothing whatever in his pockets. You were never asked to build the miracle. You are asked to become the state that miracles are drawn to. And that man is not built by years of effort. He is assumed in a moment, on a cot in Louisiana, in a bed in your own house. So stop trying to attract it. Be the man who already has it, and then watch what is compelled to come.